Let's talk about ammunition. A lot of people call ammunition bullets, but that's technically not true. A bullet is simply a part of the ammunition that actually is fired through the gun. The part that leaves the gun is the bullet. As you can see from this diagram, there are 4 parts to a round of ammunition. The bullet is one of those parts, but you've got the case, which is it's made of metal, usually brass, but sometimes you get aluminum case or steel case ammunition. So the case is basically what holds all of the parts together. Then you've got inside, you've got the powder charge, which is a fast-burning chemical that when ignited expands gases very quickly. That produces the pressure, which forces the bullet to go flying through the barrel of the gun. You've got the bullet, and then you've got what's called the primer. The primer, when crushed by the firing pin, will ignite, and therefore ignite the powder charge, creating the pressure buildup, which provides the force which pushes the bullet out through the gun. Properly termed, this would be called a round of ammunition, or you could call it a cartridge. But bullet refers only to the projectile, and not to the entire round of ammunition or cartridge that contains all 4 of these parts. There are 2 types of cartridges. There's a rimfire cartridge, and there's a centerfire cartridge. And it's, aptly named for where the primer is. So a rimfire cartridge, the priming compound, is contained on the inside of the rim of the case head. In a centerfire cartridge, the priming compound is contained in a metal cup called a primer in the center of the case head. So, depending on which type of firearm you have, it's either a rimfire or it's a centerfire, and that refers to where the firing pin is going to strike to ignite the primer that will ignite the powder and force the bullet to become a projectile and leave the gun. In the firing sequence, basically here's what happens. You pull the trigger of the pistol will cause the firing pin to hit and ignite the primer. The flame generated by the primer ignites the powder in the cartridge. The powder burns very rapidly, produces a high volume of gas, which is contained, and these expanding gases push the bullet out of the cartridge case and propel it out of the pistol barrel at a high rate of speed, anywhere from 800 to 4,000 feet per second. Here you can just see an illustration of what's going on here. So the firing pin hits the primer, ignites the primer, which ignites the powder, and those expanding gases build up pressure, which forces the bullet to exit the muzzle, the front end of the barrel. You always want to use proper caliber ammunition with any firearm, and you can identify this 3 ways. You always want to double check all 3 of these to make sure that they match. You'll find it on the firearm. Sometimes it's stamped on the barrel, sometimes it's stamped on the slide or on the side of the firearm. But you always want to find where it's stamped on the firearm, the caliber. Also check the box, the box of cartridges that you purchased from the store. Make sure that the caliber is correctly labeled there. And then on the cartridge case itself, it will also have an identifying mark telling you what the caliber is. You can see here, for example, on the barrel of this firearm it says 45 auto. On the box it says 45 auto. On the cartridge case it says 45 auto. So we know that this is the proper caliber ammunition to use with this particular firearm. 9mm ammunition is kind of interesting. The 9mm is one of the most popular calibers of ammunition that's used in America, especially a lot of self-defense uses. It's very common. It's also relatively inexpensive, and that's why a lot of people like the 9mm. But there are different types of 9mm ammunition, and it's important to make sure that you're using the correct one with your firearm. The 9x19, also called 9mm Luger, 9mm Parabellum, or sometimes 9mm NATO. That's what most Americans mean when they say 9mm. The designation here refers to the bullet diameter and the case height. So 9x19 is a 9mm diameter bullet with a 19mm high case. 9x18 is also a 9mm round. That's not what we would in America, when we say 9mm, we mean the 9x19, the 9mm Luger or Parabellum. If we're talking about the 9x18, the Makarov, it'll either say 9x18 or it'll say 9mm Makarov. That's a Russian caliber used primarily in Russia and Eastern Europe. And then the 9x17 Kurz is, again, the 17 refers to the case height, but in America we call that the 380 ACP. But the 9x17 or the 9mm Kurz it is the exact same cartridge as the 380 ACP. And you can see in the picture here what the 380 looks like, the 9x17, the 9x18 Makarov, and the 9x19 Luger. So you can see in each case the case height gets just slightly larger. But that's 9mm ammunition. Some ammunition is designated with a +P or a +P+. That indicates that it's loaded to higher than standard pressure levels. The higher pressure ammunition must only be used in firearms certified for the +P or the +P+ designation. Again, remember, always use proper ammunition in your pistol. Now, for self-defense, there are some considerations that you want to keep in mind. Reliability, controllability, stopping power, accuracy, muzzle flash, and hollow points. These are just some of the considerations. So, reliability. If you're putting your life on the line, you want to make sure that the firearm will be able to consistently chamber, fire, extract, and eject a particular load without malfunctions. So always, before you use a self-defense ammunition, always run some through your gun to make sure that it will be reliable, that it will reliably chamber, fire, extract, and eject. Controllability, the ability to fire multiple rounds and still manage recoil and maintain accuracy. Stopping power, the ability of a cartridge to quickly incapacitate an assailant or otherwise cause an assailant to stop his attack. Accuracy, ability of the gun and ammunition to combine to shoot the point of aim indicated by the sights. Muzzle flash, when there's a lot of muzzle flash that can impair night vision and illuminate your position. Hollow points. They open up, they expand in diameter upon impact. This more efficiently transfers energy and also prevents over-penetration or complete penetration that could endanger the lives of others. One of the main reasons to use hollow points is because it will be more likely to stop inside of an attacker rather than pass through the attacker and hit somebody else behind or do property damage or hurt hit someone else after it passes through. So that's one of the important points there, is to make sure that you use some kind of hollow point or expanding bullet type of ammunition for self-defense. Practice ammunition, typically called full metal jacket. It's a non-expanding type of ammunition. It involves greater penetration of the target. Often it has a reduced powder charge, so there's more manageable recoil, and it's usually a lot cheaper. Reduced cost for practice ammunition. Full metal jacket, significantly cheaper than the expanding hollow point self-defense ammunition. There you go. So those are some of the basics of ammunition.